Have you ever scrolled through social media and just been, well, floored? Floored by the sheer, unadulterated confidence of people who are maybe, to put it kindly, way off base?
Oh, totally. It's more common than you'd think, isn't it? And what's really interesting is that there's actually, a reason behind this, a documented phenomenon.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. And then you throw in the whole online environment, the internet, and you basically got a recipe for some truly spectacular displays of confident ignorance.
Spectacular is definitely the word. It's kind of like watching someone, I don't know, try to assemble IKEA furniture blindfolded and then lecturing everyone else on interior design.
Uh-huh. That's a pretty good analogy, actually.
Hey, Sip&Talkers. It's your host, Joe, and with me as always, Sunny.
Hey, Joe.
What exactly is this Dunning-Kruger thing?
Okay, so picture this. Back in 1999, you've got these two researchers at Cornell, David Dunning and Justin Kruger. They did this study, and they looked at how good people thought they were at certain things like logic, grammar, even recognizing humor.
Humor.
Yeah, and the kicker, the folks who are actually the worst at these things, they were the ones who consistently thought they were doing great.
No way. So the people completely bombing the humor test thought they were, like, comedy geniuses.
Pretty much. The study found that those scoring in the bottom, say 25% for their actual skills, they wildly overestimated their abilities.
Wildly? Like how much?
Well, for instance, someone scoring way down in the 12th percentile often believed they were performing up around the 62nd percentile. That's a huge gap.
Wow. That's actually mind-blowing. So they're not just bad at it, they're like blissfully unaware of how bad they are.
Exactly. And the researchers pinned it down to something called metacognition.
Metacognition.
Yeah, think of it like your brain's ability to self-assess, to know what you know and what you don't know. People with low competence in an area often lack that skill too.
Oh, okay.
So as Dunning and Kruger themselves put it, they suffer this kind of dual burden. They make mistakes, sure, but their very incompetence also robs them of the ability to even realize they're making mistakes.
The dual burden. Wow, that's a powerful way to put it. It's like trying to bake a cake without knowing what flour is. You wouldn't even know your cake is basically a rock.
That's a perfect analogy. It creates this kind of double curse. You've got the poor skills plus the lack of awareness. And that makes it incredibly hard to learn and improve, right?
Yeah, because how do you fix something if you don't even know it's broken?
Yeah, precisely. They don't know what they don't know, so they don't even know what they need to work on.
It almost makes you feel a little sorry for them. Well, until they start arguing online with the ferocity of, I don't know, a honey badger defending its turf.
Right.
Why does the internet seem to just amplify this? Turn these folks into absolute armchair experts in their own minds?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting online. Because online, even a tiny little bit of information can feel like you've suddenly got a PhD, Someone reads maybe a single tweet or scans a short blog post, and boom, suddenly they think they've done their research and are ready to go toe-to-toe with actual experts.
Oh, the classic, I did my own research line.
Yeah.
Usually means they watched a YouTube video.
Exactly that phenomenon. And this often comes packed with a heavy dose of what psychologists might call over-precision.
Over-precision.
Yeah, stating their opinions as if they're absolute, undeniable facts. With this unwavering certainty, even when the evidence is, well, flimsy or just not there, often it seems driven by wanting to look smart or gain status online.
So it's less about being right and more about looking right?
Yeah.
Winning the argument?
It can definitely feel that way. And then you also have overestimation. That's the gap between how skilled they actually are and how skilled they think they are. This can lead to confidently spreading misinformation or just giving really terrible advice.
Right.
And finally, there's overplacement. That's where they genuinely believe they're more knowledgeable or skilled than other people, even though because of their lack of competence, they can't accurately judge anyone's knowledge, including their own.
So it's this potent cocktail of not knowing much, thinking you're brilliant, and genuinely believing everyone else must be kind of clueless. Yikes. No wonder online discussions can just, devolve into chaos so quickly.
Absolutely. And the online environment itself, it acts like a massive amplifier for all this.
How so?
Well, think about it. We're just swimming in this ocean of information, right? And we tend to practice what's called selective reception. We click on, we read, we engage with the stuff that already confirms what we believe.
Right, confirmation bias. We love hearing that we're right.
Exactly. And those sneaky social media algorithms, they're like enablers for this. They learn what you like, and they just keep feeding you more of the same.
Trapping us in our nice, comfy echo chambers.
Precisely. These algorithms can really narrow our perspective, make it harder to bump into different viewpoints, or even just, accurate information that challenges us.
And it's just so easy, isn't it, to just fire off a tweet or a comment?
Oh, yeah. The cost of entry is basically zero. Our brains love taking shortcuts, cognitive shortcuts, and the online world is just full of opportunities for those shortcuts to lead us, well, astray, without much fact-checking or deep thought.
Okay, so part of it is definitely on us, our own biases, maybe being a bit lazy in our thinking sometimes. But you also mentioned something called cognitive warfare. That sounds intense, like something out of a spy movie.
It is pretty intense, actually. Cognitive warfare is essentially using information, or more often misinformation, to manipulate what people think. The goal might be to create divisions, sow confusion, or undermine trust.
And who does this?
It can be various actors, states, certain organizations, even coordinated groups of individuals. They might use things like fake accounts, push biased narratives, spread outright fake news, all to shape opinions online.
So sometimes it's not just people who genuinely don't know any better. Sometimes there's a deliberate push to spread nonsense.
Precisely. Think about some of those really exaggerated stories you might see online about, say, a company or maybe a political situation. Often the goal is to stir up negative emotions like anger or fear, or to create distrust. Take, for instance, some of the misleading claims that have circulated about TSMC's international expansions.
Right, I think I've seen some chatter about that, like the U.S. factory stuff.
Exactly. While TSMC is expanding globally for very real reasons, supply chain security, diversification, meeting demand, policy incentives, Taiwan absolutely remains its core operational and R&D hub. But misinformation might try to paint a picture of Taiwan being hollowed out or its tech being given away.
And the goal there would be?
Well, it could be several things. To create anxiety among the public in Taiwan, maybe undermine trust in the government's economic strategy, or even foster a sense of defeatism regarding Taiwan's technological autonomy.
Right, okay. So a lack of deep understanding about really complex issues combined with these potentially manipulative narratives, yeah, that's a recipe for some seriously confident but wrong online pronouncements.
Exactly. And this whole situation is made worse by, frankly, gaps in general education and specifically media literacy.
Meaning people don't have the skills to spot this stuff.
Yeah, if people haven't developed strong critical thinking skills, if they aren't really equipped to evaluate sources online, to ask, where is this coming from, what's the evidence, then they're much more vulnerable to these kinds of manipulations. And the lines between traditional news and social media have become so blurred, it makes it even harder to figure out what's credible and what's not.
And emotions. Emotions seem to drive so much online. It feels like the angrier or more outrageous something sounds, the faster it spreads.
Oh, absolutely. Emotionally charged content, things that make you angry or scared or indignant, tends to be way more viral than, say, a careful, rational, fact-based analysis.
Yeah, nuance doesn't get clicks.
Exactly. Those sensationalist comments, even if they're completely wrong, can get tons of traction simply because they trigger strong reactions. And those who want to spread misinformation know this. They often use fragmented bits of information, maybe taken out of context, or they simplify really complex issues into these neat, easily shareable conspiracy theories.
So going back to that TSMC example, it's much easier and more provocative to shout, they're giving away our tech. Than to explain the complex geopolitical and economic reasons for building a factory in the U.S.
Precisely. And as we discussed, the potential aim of that kind of misinformation could be to erode trust, maybe undermine confidence in democratic institutions or Taiwan's economic future, create that sense of helplessness, or maybe fuel internal conflict.
And the platforms themselves play a role too, right, with their algorithms.
Absolutely. We touched on this, but it bears repeating. Their business models often rely on engagement clicks, shares, comments, and the algorithms designed to maximize that engagement can inadvertently amplify extreme, divisive, or emotionally charged content, even if it's inaccurate or harmful.
Because that's what keeps people scrolling and clicking.
Right. And combine that with the fact that, as we've established, many users just don't have the media literacy skills to critically evaluate everything flooding their feeds.
Okay, so it really isn't just that people are, like, dumber online. It's this crazy complex mix of our own psychological quirks like Dunning-Kruger, plus the way the internet itself is designed, and then sometimes, deliberate manipulation thrown in.
Exactly. The Dunning-Kruger effect means people often don't realize the true extent of their own ignorance, and then this lack of self-awareness gets amplified by confirmation bias, by the echo chambers we tend to inhabit online.
We find our little online tribes where everyone seems to agree with our maybe sometimes half-baked ideas, and that just reinforces this illusion that we must really know what we're talking about.
Precisely. And sometimes, those confident online pronouncements aren't even really about a genuine search for truth. They can be more about signaling identity. I belong to this group. These are my people. Accuracy can sometimes take a backseat to just fitting in or scoring points for your side.
That rings so true. You see people online doubling down on just ridiculous claims, seemingly just because it's what their online buddies believe or what the other side hates.
It happens all the time.
So maybe we can look at a few classic examples of this kind of confident online ignorance and maybe quickly break down why they're off base.
Sure, absolutely. Let's take a few common ones you probably see. How about electric vehicles are a total scam?
Oh yeah, that one's huge. They're terrible for the environment because the batteries or the grid can't handle them, all that kind of stuff.
Right. But if you actually step back and look at the bigger picture, you see massive global pushes for net zero emissions. You see dozens of countries and regions planning to phase out gasoline cars entirely.
Yeah, it's not just some niche thing anymore.
Not at all. And the overwhelming scientific consensus is that, while there are challenges with batteries and grids that need solving, EVs are still a crucial part of tackling climate change and reducing air pollution over their lifetime compared to gasoline cars. It's about international trends and addressing a global crisis, not some, secret scam.
Okay, here's another one that pops up constantly, especially in certain corners of the internet. Vaccines are just for controlling people.
Ugh. Yeah, look, the overwhelming scientific and medical evidence, backed by just mountains and mountains of clinical trial data and real-world statistics from billions of doses, shows that vaccines are incredibly effective at preventing serious illness, hospitalization, and death from infectious diseases.
Right.
There's simply no credible evidence whatsoever of some secret global plot to control populations through routine vaccination. It flies in the face of basic public health principles and verifiable data.
Okay, what about this one? Poor people are poor because they're lazy. That one always gets me. It feels so dismissive.
It is incredibly dismissive and just plain wrong. That statement completely ignores this complex web of systemic factors that contribute to poverty. Things like unequal access to quality education, lack of job opportunities in certain regions, historical disadvantages passed down through generations, limited social safety nets, health issues. The list goes on.
So blaming it on laziness is just a massive oversimplification.
It's a harmful oversimplification. Yeah, it ignores the structural barriers many people face.
Okay, and one that feels maybe newer but is definitely out there. AI is going to destroy humanity because it's conscious now.
Ah, yes, the AI takeover narrative. Well, look, the long-term implications of artificial intelligence are definitely something we need to think about very seriously, no question.
Right.
But current AI technology is nowhere near being conscious or having independent will like a human does. What we have now are mostly very sophisticated pattern matching systems and large language models. They can process information and generate text or images based on the vast amounts of data they've been trained on.
So they're like really fancy prediction machines, not thinking beings.
Essentially, yes. The idea of a sentient AI deciding to wipe out humans is, for now at least, firmly in the realm of science fiction, not current reality. It misunderstands what today's AI actually is.
Gotcha. So wrapping this all up, it's really not just random dumbness we're seeing out there online. It's this potent mix of our own cognitive limitations, the way information and misinformation spreads like wildfire online, and sometimes, those intentional efforts to mislead us. It really does feel like a systemic issue.
It really is. We're facing this perfect storm of information overload, gaps in critical thinking education, psychological factors that make us crave simple answers even for complex problems, and yes, deliberate manipulation. So the big question becomes, what can we do about it? How do we fight back against this? How do we become maybe a little less confidently wrong ourselves and better navigate this crazy online information jungle?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do we avoid becoming the next meme for saying something totally wildly incorrect online with absolute conviction?
Well, a really crucial first step, maybe the most important one, is to actively, honestly question our own knowledge and conclusions routinely.
Okay.
We need to actively challenge ourselves. Think about how we might be wrong. Try playing devil's advocate with our own strongest beliefs. It can be uncomfortable, but it's super helpful.
And talk to people.
Definitely. Seeking out feedback from people you trust, especially people who might know more about a specific topic than you do, is vital. And importantly, being willing to listen to that feedback.
Yeah, it can be tough to admit you might be wrong or that you don't know something, but it sounds like that's essential if you actually want to learn and not just, posture online.
Absolutely essential. And just continuing to learn, really digging into subjects, studying them in more depth gives us a much clearer picture of the complexities and, crucially, the limits of our own understanding.
So stay curious.
Stay curious and actively seek out different perspectives, even ones that challenge your existing views. It broadens your horizons. And related to that, be open to constructive criticism, even if it stings a little bit at first. Don't just dismiss it out of hand.
Okay, so basically, embrace being a lifelong learner, try to keep an open mind, and maybe develop a slightly thicker skin.
That's a good summary, yeah. And maybe add, don't pretend to know what you don't know. It's okay to say I'm not sure, or I need to look into that more.
That feels like a superpower online sometimes.
It really is. Maybe the most practical skill we all need to level up is our media literacy.
Right. How do we do that?
It means being skeptical, especially of sensational headlines or things that seem designed to make you angry. It means taking a moment to verify information before you share it. Use reputable fact-checking websites. Look for primary sources if you can.
Don't just trust the first thing you see.
Exactly. And seek out a variety of credible sources, not just the ones that confirm what you already think. Encourage critical thinking in yourself and others. Question things.
So it's really an ongoing process, isn't it? Self-reflection, continuous learning, and really engaging critically, thoughtfully with the flood of information we encounter every day. It's definitely not as simple as just believing the first thing that pops up in our newsfeed and firing off a response.
Not at all. It takes effort.
Well, this has been incredibly insightful. Seriously. It almost makes you feel a tiny bit better about seeing so much confident nonsense online, just knowing there's actually like a psychological explanation behind it all. Almost.
Yeah, almost. I think the key takeaway really is that this online overconfidence we see everywhere, it's often a symptom of someone not being aware of their own limitations, that Dunning-Kruger effect. And then that effect gets dramatically amplified by the unique dynamics of the online world, the echo chambers, the algorithms, the low cost of saying anything, and yes, sometimes by those deliberate attempts to spread misinformation.
Right. So maybe for you listening right now, perhaps take a moment later today to think about those topics you feel absolutely rock solid certain about. Ask yourself, have you really dug deep into those subjects? Have you explored different viewpoints? Or could you, maybe, just maybe, be experiencing a tiny touch of the Dunning-Kruger effect yourself?
A good challenge.
Yeah. Consider how the online environment might be shaping your views on it. And maybe actively challenge yourself this week to seek out perspectives that genuinely differ from your own. It might just save you from becoming the next viral example of confident online ignorance. And who wants that? Switching gears for a sec, on a much lighter note, you know our friend Micky. He's got that great YouTube channel, Mickytolife. Seriously fun, interesting stuff over there. If you're looking for something engaging, definitely check it out.
Yeah, give Micky some love.
And of course, if you enjoyed this deep dive, if you like getting clear, insightful explanations on complex topics, maybe with a bit of banter,
hopefully we achieved that.
please do subscribe to our Sip and Talk deep dives. We love digging into this stuff, and we've got plenty more planned.
We do. Thanks for tuning in.